Look where my trying best got me. He laughed with his teary eyes. He looked at her, and his heart shattered into pieces when she saw the disgust in her eyes for himself. They kept looking at each other, her having disgust in her eyes, and him having love for her in his eyes. After a few minutes, she inhaled deeply and smiled. You thought like that about me before even talking to me? Who gave you the right to judge me? Her eyes never moving away from his. How could you think that I would prefer much more better than you before even talking to me? Is that all you think love is? There is no such thing as love, he shouted. Everybody dates according to their tastes and fun. Isn't everyone like that? She slapped him on the face, not too hard, but just to make him shut up. There was silence, complete silence for a minute, as she heard her own breaths getting faster. Who gave you the right to think like that about me? My heart was getting broken into pieces, thinking that you suffered because of me all this time. But no, you suffered because of your own judgment, because of how you saw the world, she said with her teary eyes. Jungkook looked at her again and said in a loud voice, then what should I have done? I always saw the world with those eyes because they made me see it like that. They made me feel like that about themselves. Nobody made me think or feel otherwise. So how could I? Before he completed, she collided her head with his chest and hugged him tightly. Yes, she was angry and frustrated about how he didn't even talk to her and suffered all these months without her, just looking at her from afar. Someone suffering because of her, and she didn't even have an idea. Living with him for some days, she never thought she herself would be the reason of his sufferings. Otherwise, she would have taken it away as soon as she could. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry, she sobbed while saying that. I'm sorry that we made you feel like it. She tightened her grip. And thank you so much for being patient all of this time for me. But let me tell you, if everyone dates because of fun, then they don't know what love is. Love happens to only a few of us, and you're the lucky one, she said in a soft voice, which made him sob together with her. He hugged her back, softly touching her back with the palm of his hands, simply feeling the warmth of a person he didn't feel in such a long time. He buried his face on her shoulder and cried all he wanted, with his grip on her back tightened. She breathed heavily, her heart breaking down at the sound of his sobs. After a few minutes, there was silence in the room, so deep silence that they could hear each other's heartbeats. After such minutes of silence, she broke the hug and looked in his eyes. She observed him through his eyes and whispered softly, Jungkook, I'm so sorry. I don't know what you went through to think like that about everyone. Her eyes locked with his. But I promise you, you won't ever have to feel like that again, especially because of me. She wiped her tears as she said, it's all my fault. Jungkook sniffled and lifted his head to meet her gaze. Don't whine. It's me who should be apologizing. You didn't even know about it. How could it be your fault? I shouldn't have judged you without knowing the truth. I've been a fool. He looked down while saying the last line. Vine wiped away his tears gently. We both made mistakes, but we can make things right. She held his chin and lifted it, making him look at her. Please, let me give us a chance. For a moment, his breath got stuck in his throat as he looked at her. His heartbeat fastened and his chest heavy. He wanted to snatch her away right at the moment. But he hesitated, his eyes searching hers. Fine. You have no idea how dangerous my life is. His expressions softened. I'm not sure if I can keep you safe. Vine stared in his eyes for a few seconds, aware of every danger that lurked around him. She knew somewhat about his work after living with him for days, and she was determined. Vine, I don't care about the dangers, Jungkook. She smiled. Isn't this how it works? Dangers keep lurking around us, and we fight them together. Isn't this how marriages work? This is different, his eyes containing fear. It's not the type of dangers that every other couple face. Jungkook, I don't know if I can give you the life you deserve. I'm a mafia, and my world is filled with violence and danger. But you will keep me safe, right? Vine places a hand on his cheek. I don't need fancy cars or expensive gifts. All I need is someone who loves me to this extent. Feeling the warmth of her hand on his cheek, Jungkook gazes into her eyes, his heart swelling with emotions. You're the most incredible person I've ever met. He held her hand, which was on his cheek, and gently kissed it. I promise to protect you with everything I have, for as long as I live. Vine smiles through her tears as she nodded. And I promise to never be the reason of your sufferings ever again. Jungkook, I never thought I'd be standing here with you, with your hand in mine. I thought I don't deserve it. She placed her finger on his lips to shut him up. They looked at each other for some seconds, admiring their love for each other in each other's eyes. Then he looked at her lips, traced his eyes from her lower lip to the upper, and slowly he went for it. Their lips met in a soft, tentative kiss. She kissed him back, confirming the connection between them. He didn't imagine any of this. He always thought someone like him doesn't deserve someone like her. He thought he would always live his life painting her pictures and admiring her from afar. And one day he will have to give up as she gets married. That's the life he thought for himself. But there he was, standing with her in his arms, her lips in his mouth. He couldn't believe it. The affection and longing he felt for all these months, he poured all of it in that one kiss. He loved her to no extent, to no limits, to no boundaries. He always dreamed of this. After a few minutes, they left each other to breathe. She smiled while looking at him, and this was all he needed. Her smile because of him. One day. He smiled back and rubbed her hair softly while looking at her. Jungkook, thank you for accepting me with all my flaws and darkness. his voice soft and his gestures gentle. I will love you forever. Fine. You don't have to hide your flaws or darknesses from me. She locked her eyes with his. I will stay with you no matter what. He admired her for a while and then pulled her head closer to his chest. She rested in his embrace as she wrapped her arms around his waist. As they embrace each other tightly, their hearts finally find solace in each other's arms. They may have faced countless obstacles along the way, but together, in each other's love, they find the strength to face the challenges of their past and the uncertainties of their future. And as they hold on to each other, they know that their love will conquer all.